Everybody, welcome to the next edition of Rumors versus Facts. My name is Rodney Bolsey. I'm joined by Jed May, and this is a special mailbag edition of Rumors versus Facts, where we actually want to answer questions. Normally, we're kind of reviewing the last game that Georgia played and looking ahead to the one that's coming up, and we'll definitely talk about the Florida Gators on the schedule next. But if you have questions, go ahead and pop them into the comments section. We'll definitely try to get them. Good to see ATL Roblox in there with the Go Dogs, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of other folks joining us as well. But Jed, I think we need to jump right into it. We'll start off with Boom MFR Dog. It's a long time poster on the dog board on the dog vent, and he's got three questions. So
Okay.
let's start with the first one. It says, what changes can we anticipate on defense next year? There need to be changes. A new defensive coordinator or a co-defensive coordinator and edges in the portal seems to be where we start.
Yeah, I mean, changes. I think a lot of it depends on if Glenn Schumann's back. I mean, you got to start there first. If the defensive coordinator, if there's a new defensive coordinator, obviously that will change some things. But as far as edge rusher, yeah, I think Kamari Brooks out of the high school ranks is a guy who you can see play early. I've seen him play in high school, and he's always been very impressive. And he's a disciplined player, which is always a good thing, right? But that's the kind of thing you need to show the coaches to get on the field to do anything at Georgia, especially. So that's an encouraging sign. But yeah, you wonder if this is ironically enough, if Georgia goes out and gets its version of a Damon Wilson that Missouri was able to pick up out of the portal. So we talked before the Elo Modozi acquisition hasn't panned out necessarily yet. That could change over the last part of the season, but I think it'd be fair to say the defensive staff was hoping for more out of him by this point in the year. So yeah, I think you got to figure out pass rush, and you got to figure out maybe more consistency from the secondary. I think you go into next year with, if there's no transfers, you'll pretty much roll into spring with DeMello Jones and Ellis Robinson as your starting corners, which that looks pretty good on paper, especially with those guys getting another year of experience. So, and KJ Bolden will be back at safety, and I think Jonel Aguero should be back at star unless he leaves for the draft, which I don't think he will. So, should have a lot of returning experience on the back end, and we'll have to see how it goes. But again, I think it's hard to tell what changes there will be until you know who the defensive coordinator is going to be.
I know there's a lot of coaching vacancies out there, and for the last 2-3 years, Glenn Schumann was a hot name. He is not a hot commodity like he was a few years ago. I mean, every time that there was an opening, his name would pop up, especially, saw what was happening. I think it was with the Eagles and other groups like that. I just don't know that he's in demand like he was before. And I don't know that Kirby goes a different direction. I think Kirby's going to spend a little more time working on his defense than he does his offense. I think he's very comfortable with where the offense is, and Mike calls the type of game that Kirby wants him to. So I don't think he needs to micromanage what Mike Bobo's doing, but he definitely needs to get into that defensive room and get that squared away. And that's his baby. The secondary is his baby, and the secondary is bad. It's a bad defense right now. It's not great. They have the potential to get better, and they've missed on a few guys, like you mentioned, Elo Modozi and the transfers, safeties that they brought in. But next year you've got Isaiah Gibson, you've got Zayden Walker, you've got Chase Linton, and Darren, whose last name I can never say. There's a lot of edge guys who it's the first year. It's tough to be an edge guy year one. I mean, we didn't see that from Damon Wilson. We didn't see it from Sam Mpemba. We didn't see it from Gabe Harris. You just can't come in and be a top edge rusher. But those guys are putting on weight. They're working on techniques. They're getting bigger, faster, stronger. So hopefully you see those guys, and you should see Quintavious Johnson and Gabe Harris back next year on the edges. So I'm with you there, but you got to find another safety.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I would be down with a wholesale not removal, but I don't know that Dante Williams is killing it as his secondary coach. I don't know how well Travaris Robinson's coaching. So I don't know that sort of stuff to say Kirby wants to make a change there. But I do think philosophically, a lot of the guys he brought in were great recruiters. He always wants good coaches, but he also wants good recruiters. I think now if Kirby's thinking about, hey, and maybe I need to make a change, maybe it's I don't need great recruiters because I can go to the portal and get guys. In other words, that emphasis, maybe you need more of a tactician. Maybe you need more of a defensive savant than you need a guy who's 50% great coach, 50% great recruiter. Now you maybe need an 80% great coach, and I'll get you the players out of the portal. Don't you worry about it. Well, it's like with Todd Monken. Todd Monken didn't recruit for shit. You just didn't. It was like, hey, I'm gonna give you Brock Bowers and James Cook and Broderick Jones and Marius Mims. Let's see what you can do with them. So we have no way to answer that, but I think philosophically you might see a change and then see some new guys come in. I think, Jed, you nailed it. Go to the portal. You saw how well Ole Miss.
And I think you can look at the portal two ways. You can look at it as you're going to get the 1-year rental guy, or you could look at it as, hey, this is a kid that we knew in high school and weren't necessarily sure if he was ready. And now he spent a year in college and we're ready to bring him in if he goes to the portal. So, and then you've got him for 3 years, maybe 4 more years if he redshirted as a freshman. So you can look at it two kind of ways. So, but yeah, I think because someone on the board asked, which freshman could play. And I'm like, there's no reason one of this year's freshmen couldn't start at safety next year. I mean, I think it's going to be a wide open competition again. And then you throw in Rashawn Dinkins, you throw in, I think Todd Robinson's probably Robinson. All those guys, I think there's no reason it's not a wide open competition at safety next year. So opposite KJ Bolden, obviously. So, or maybe Janelle Aguero gets moved to safety and then stars wide open. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it works out. But yeah, I think there will be plenty of experience at corner. KJ Bolden will have a ridiculous amount of experience. Aguero, no matter where he ends up, will have a lot of experience. And there's just that one more spot where either it'll be Jones or Thomas. I think they could both come back, or somebody, a new face that wins the job through the spring and summer.
I'm with you there. Boom Everdog got a second question: is how are schools going to pay to fire high-priced coaches and stay competitive in NIL?
I mean,
that is a great question because I took it on the chin. I was so wrong. At the beginning of the year, I said that I doubt we see as many high-profile firings this year as we have in the past.
Killed it.
We're not even into November, and everybody's fired. My God.
I don't know, because again, these are like, it's not like these schools are necessarily printing. I mean, they are printing money, but like you think of Vanderbilt, for example, and that's a private school. That's a school with wealthy alums. It's an engineering school, but like I don't know if those necessarily think of LSU in that same realm. And yet they're ponying up, and it's spread out, I think, from what I understand about the buyout, but still it's a lot of money. It's millions of dollars. So I heard something today where you wonder if people or if schools will say, okay, what if instead, like Florida State, for example, okay, what if instead of firing Mike Norvell in this cycle, bring him back one more year and put what would be buyout money into the roster, into portal guys, into, I guess it would probably mostly be portal guys, but late flips maybe, and see where that goes. Some of these schools got to consider, like there's just so much money that you've got to consider with the rev share stuff now, with the NIL now, with just paying coaches in general. Like, because if you're going to get a coach like a Kirby Smart, like a Brian Kelly, not just the coaches making a lot of money, your coordinators are making a bunch of money. Your position coaches are well paid. Then you've got to, if you're like how Georgia is, you've got to go through the player personnel department, the recruiting people. Like there's a lot of money in these organizations that when there's changes, people see the $50 million buyout. Like, man, that's a lot of money. And then it's like you said, it's the coordinators. Like all that adds up. Like the On3 report said, I think the LSU all-in cost was like $100 million, and then you got to pay the new guy, right? It's like, if you hire a search firm, that's money you got to pay. So I don't know. I don't know how ADs and presidents and in LSU's case, the state's governor, figure this stuff out, but it's just a lot of money. And I think at a certain point we're kind of desensitized to it. Like I saw $54 million for Brian Kelly. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that's not that much. Like that's a lot of freaking money, dude. Like that's a ton of money. And it just is kind of not it. You read it and it zips across the screen without much of a second thought. But yeah, it's a lot of money, and you wonder going forward with rev share, with all this different stuff, does the structure of buyouts and all that.
That's two different things.
Yeah.
So the rev share, and he makes a good question, because I was thinking, I know what's going on at Georgia. I don't pay attention to a lot of the other schools. I know more about what's going on inside Georgia than I do anywhere else. They are looking anywhere. I mean, they are going into the couch cushions to find money. When you take $20 million out of the budget and say, okay, we're giving this to the players. And again, that's just the athletes, because when I say players, people just think it's football players. That rev share goes everywhere. So you're getting a lot of money from television. You're taking that, you're splitting it up and giving it to the players. Plus, you have the players' NIL deals on top of that, which everyone thought, oh, well, this rev share will end NIL as we know it. No, this is the base salary. If you still want to go out and get top players, especially on the portal, they want to know what they're getting in addition to that, So that's a good chunk of NIL. What else you got? And that's the way it's going to be. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, we need $54 million to get rid of this coach. Well, that's a different bucket of money. Where's that $54 million? You're already down $20 million this year. And some of these guys, their payouts pretty quick. It's not like, oh, we've got to pay $54 million over the next 30 years. Some of it's like right away. So it's like, okay, well, we have our can't take it out of the operating funds. We're already down 16%, year over year because we had to pay this. So it is a real issue, but you're having other people step up and say, yeah, well, we'll help you with this buyout because we want a new coach. It's a lot easier to sell a big time donor on, hey, we need some help with this buyout because you hate this guy's guts and you want him gone and you want to win, versus, hey, we need $13 million to attract a high school quarterback. Like, was he any good? Oh, yeah, he's ranked number one. And then they go back and see the Jane Rashada thing. What was that, $13 million? And kid's not even playing anywhere, to my knowledge. It's a lot easier to get money for a coach buyout than it is NIL coffer, especially when the kids go out and they buy, you see them buying Lamborghinis and stuff like that versus, paying a coach. So the answer to the question is it is a lot tougher, but the chilling effect I thought that the NIL revenue sharing would have on getting rid of coaches has not come to pass at all. I don't want to say it's a sunken cost fallacy, but they're like, look, if we're already spending this much money on players and the people, you saw that stadium in Baton Rouge at night, it was empty, third quarter. There's nobody there. You can't have that. That's a snowball effect. Like, we got to get rid of this guy. I don't care what it costs us. And then, like you said, you pay out $54 million, which is an astronomical number. And the first thing the LSU fans or the Florida fans or anybody else says is, let's back a Brinks truck up to Nick Saban's house or Lane Kiffin's house and make him say no. Well, yeah, you're writing checks with somebody else's checkbook. That's now. Yeah. To your point, you want to go get a guy that you're going to have to pay a hell of a lot more than what you're paying the current guy. So Brink, he's about to make a lot of money. Brinkwitz is about to make a lot of money. Lane Kiffin is going to be probably the highest paid coach in college football, even just because he stays where he's at. So the only person that wins in all this is Jimmy Sexton.
Yep. Like every year.
Can you imagine how much his phone is lighting up right now? I love it. This is a question from Michael Quick 33. He says, does a wild coaching change season equal a wild national signing day? Are most players only concerned with the monetary amount they've been promised? I think that's a good question to follow up what we were just talking about. So
yeah, it could, because you've already gotten school. From a Georgia perspective, you've had coaches at programs you recruit against be fired already. You've got Florida, you've got LSU, you've got Arkansas to a certain extent, and then you've got Florida State is very uncertain, and Auburn's very uncertain. So yeah, and even South Carolina is a little kind of Beamer is a little shaky there. It seems like, especially with Virginia Tech open. So yeah, it's because let me see when the National Signing Day is. I should know this since I'm a national recruiting expert.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is your recruiting question, man.
Yeah, I should know this off the top of my head. That's the one. Good grief. The February one that nobody cares about anymore. Let's see. December 4th through, nope, that was last year. It's early in December. It's not long after the end of the season. So I think, if I remember right, it's the week leading up to the SEC championship, like between the Tech game and the SEC championship. So, which for schools that are in the event of firing their coach, that's a few days after your regular season ends. So, okay, if you're Florida State and you fire Mike Norvell on that Sunday, then you've got 3 days before kids can and you don't have to sign in December. Obviously, you can still sign in February, but yeah, it could get really weird because then what if, let's say, I don't know, let's just say for argument's sake, Deion Sanders goes to Florida State to replace Mike Norvell. Okay, well then Colorado guys could be looking at Florida State. Well, then what if Colorado hires Glenn Schumann? Okay, do Georgia kids look at like all that stuff is going to be happening right where signing day is now. And it absolutely could, because it's the way this cycle is. Because you get all these guys that want to be hired for the jobs, like Lane Kiffin's going to be coaching probably into the playoff. Clark Lee is going to be coaching all the way through the end of the year. Key's got a decent chance of coaching into the playoff, the ACC championship. Like all these coaches are going to be in the thick of it with their current teams, at least till the end of the regular season. And then you snap your fingers and it's early signing period. So, it's going to be wild, I think, just with so many big spots opening and so many spots that will open. I think that's the thing, is like that we're places that we think could come open that haven't yet. And there's going to be more movement. That still has to happen in those, 72, 96
From a high
hours
school
from the end of the
standpoint,
regular
I mean,
season to signing day.
But from a high school standpoint, you got kids that are they're committed. Coaching change happens, like you said. Maybe they look to go with the coach, or maybe they stick it out. The question was, well, are they more concerned about the coach, or are they more concerned about the NIL numbers? And yeah, the NIL numbers have a lot to do with that. That is in the past, he's right. With the coaching carousel meant there was a recruiting carousel as well. And especially, like when Kirby Smart took over, first thing he did, he gets Jake Fromm and Richard LeCounte. And all of a sudden, those guys are coming. They want to be part of what Kirby's building at Georgia. And they start recruiting other guys. So if you had a Lane Kiffin at Florida, maybe you get a few guys who are like, yeah, this is going to be a blast. That coach is hilarious. I've always kind of liked Florida. I was going to Ole Miss, but I'll go there. Or I was going to Clemson, but I want to go be a part of that. So that comes up to it. But I can guarantee you, to answer the question, what a lot of these coaches are asking, they're like, yeah, what's my salary? What's my NIL budget? What are you guys going to do for NIL? I can't win without a war chest. What do you have war chest wise? If not, I'm going to stay here. And what you guys are throwing, the extra money you're throwing at me to try to keep me here or to hire a guy, if you guys will give me that same amount of money in NIL, I can win here, because Clark Lee's proven you can win at Vandy. Lane Kiffin's proven you can win at Ole Miss. You can win Indiana. Doesn't matter. So,
and I think that's like LSU, LSU is going to go all in on football, right? Florida is going to go all in on football. But if you're Virginia Tech and you're looking at these coaches, and these coaches are going to be like, how invested are you going to be in football? If you're Arkansas, how much money are you putting into the football program versus what John Calipari is doing with basketball? Oklahoma State, same thing. Like all these, I don't want to call them second-tier jobs, but they're not on the level.
They're second-tier jobs. Call it what it is.
Florida or Penn State. So, what, like you said, what's the NIL chest look like? What's the rev share distribution going to be? All that stuff matters, because again, if you're Clark Lee, it's like, well, I've got Vanderbilt football at a level of support and buy-in that, I mean, has it ever been like this? This in the past 70 years, 80 years? Like, why would he leave? I mean, he's got a path to the playoff this year. He could lose one more game and he's in the playoff at Vanderbilt. So why do you, and that's my thing with Kiffin and Ole Miss is like, he didn't need to leave Ole Miss to win a championship. Like 15 years ago, maybe, but he's got what he needs there to win. If he feels like he wants to stay there and be, be the czar of Ole Miss football for the next 10, 15 years if he wants to. So I think the calculus of these guys and which jobs are the jobs is a little different because again, if you get buy-in, if you get NIL money, you can win. If you hit on your transfer ads, you can win anywhere.
Well, that's why everybody thinks everyone thinks they're getting Dan Lanning. I'm like, he is going to be tougher than a tick on a blue hound to get out of there. Just you're not going to be able to pull him out of that spot, because he's very happy, So
and they were the number one seed last year. I mean, yeah, it didn't work out in the playoff, but you went. I don't know if they went undefeated or not, but you won the Big Ten in your first year in the conference, and why? Yeah, is it easier to recruit maybe at Alabama, but Oregon's recruiting just fine, and they're such a national brand that it's not like they're this little school tucked up in the Northwest that nobody's ever heard of or never sees on TV like maybe they were 40 years ago. Like everybody sees Oregon all the time. Yeah. So yeah, it's with the TV and all this other stuff. Like it's the math is different, I think, for a lot of these
not only that, dude.
Agents
I feel sorry for whoever takes over LSU, whoever takes over Florida, whoever takes over Penn State. These are great jobs, but you see how little rope you have.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not a big Brian Kelly fan. I didn't think it was a fit. I thought the fake act. To me, it felt like a carpetbagger. He's going to come teach us idiot Southerners how to coach. He leaves a great spot at Notre Dame, comes here and with his fake accent and just kind of condescending manner, and he was never a fit there. But I mean, if you win, you're a fit. But if you don't win, the awkwardness shows up. So he comes down and but you see he lost to 3 top 10 teams, top 12 teams. I mean, they were winning at halftime. He's fired 48 hours later. That's how demanding it is. If you stay at Ole Miss, you're a king. You stay at Vandy, you're Demi. Brent Key stays at Georgia Tech, and they haven't sniffed a championship since 1990 or whatever. I mean, he could be king of Atlanta. I'm just saying, if you can compete through the portal at a place that doesn't have the same expectations that Michigan has, that doesn't have the same expectations that Penn State, and Ole Miss suffered through it. You remember that Ole Miss fired a good coach. They fired a guy that was winning them 9-10 games a season, and they're like, well, he can't get us over the hump, and then they were irrelevant. Florida's changed coach. This is a 4th coach at Kirby Smart's face since he's been there.
McElwain, Napier. Yeah, it's got to be 4. I mean, he's been there for 10 years. Yeah, Mullen. Yeah, it's at least 4.
The Kirby Smart, he's going to be facing. Well, this will be his 5th guy. Point being, you can keep changing coaches every 15 seconds because Florida can't. They have. I won't say delusions of grandeur. They won titles, but the expectation is championship or bust. So you can stay somewhere else. Why would you? And again, the recruits are like, oh, well, I'll go live in Nashville. Nashville's a great town. So I can definitely see that. All right, we beat that to death. Let's move on to the other question we had from Michael Quick 33 says, Jared Curtis, rumors versus facts. The man gets the point of the show. What are the rumors? What are the facts? What is the deal with 5-star quarterback commit Jared Curtis, who looked great the other day? My God, 6 passing touchdowns in one game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rumor is that he's got a Vanderbilt tattoo on his arm, and he's going to be in a movie with Nate Bargatze after he signs with the Commodores in a few weeks. But I think, I think the facts are that the facts are he's visited twice in a week, which is is never something to ignore. And I think there are things that Vanderbilt can offer that uniquely Vanderbilt can offer Jared Curtis. You can be a hometown hero. You can be the guy that takes a program to a place it's never been before if you stay there. And Vanderbilt can offer him, I mean, I would assume pretty much immediate playing time next year because Pavi is gone and I don't know what they've got behind him. So that's unique to Vanderbilt. And then you add in they could put together an NIL offer that is competitive with anybody. So those are the facts, and I think this is something that can't be totally discounted. But I think at the end of the day, Georgia is still in best position to sign Jared Curtis. I think coming out of the weekend, Georgia still feels good about signing Jared Curtis. Eventually, he'll be back for the Texas game in a couple weeks, and I think it makes sense he would visit. I think I saw on the board his high school coach went to Vandy. He's close with Pavia, which is great. But I think it's still he committed to Georgia for a reason, and twice exactly. He chose Georgia over Oregon, over I don't know who all it was the first time. Schools across the country, and I think it is a testament to what Clark Lee has built to even get him on campus and to have this be a semi-realistic hope. And I'm sure Vanderbilt's going to keep trying, and this is something we're going to keep an eye on over the next 6 weeks or whatever, just till signing day. But I still feel pretty confident in Georgia signing Jared Curtis, and I don't foresee that changing. Now, if he shows up at Vanderbilt again in November, like then there might be some alarm bells raised. But until something like that happens, I think every indication is pointing toward him ending up signing with Georgia.
Of course, I thought the same thing about Dylan Raiola. So, and Nebraska came and pitched him on. Look, you can start as a freshman. If Jared Curtis is looking at Georgia, saying, "Well, Gunnar Stockton comes back next year, and we still haven't seen Ryan Puglisi get his shot, and maybe he gets 2 years." Yeah, I can see how the negative recruiting works, and like you said, the hometown hero. But a lot of people made a big deal out of it. And I was asked about this Friday on the radio, and I said, "Game day's in his backyard. Game day doesn't go to Nashville. This is historic." So,
and he, for everything I understand, he grew up in Nashville. He's seen Vanderbilt be what Vanderbilt has been for his entire life. Imagine if you grew up in Starkville and when Mississippi State was rolling. Yeah, I'm committed to Georgia, but I want to go check out Mississippi State when they're number 1 and game days in town and they're playing. They played Auburn that time when Auburn was number 3 or whatever. Like it's a cool thing, and I think this isn't just a courtesy visit necessarily. I do think Vanderbilt is trying hard to flip him and is recruiting him, and they're giving it their best shot, as they should. When you got a 5-star quarterback in your backyard that is texting you back, but I still think Georgia. All his relationships are still a Georgia that he had. Georgia's big selling points for quarterbacks is you will be surrounded by the best talent, and that is not changing. And I think Vanderbilt, and I don't know, I don't have their roster taped to my wall here, but I think that's on the board. They're losing some offensive linemen. I think Stowers, the tight end, will be gone. They are going to have to turn things over. And I think if you're Curtis, the long-term projection of the Georgia program is I still think a bit more sure than what you got at Vanderbilt. I think so. I still think he's signed for Georgia.
You don't know that. You assume Clark Lee is going to be there, but it would be a lot easier for me to sell him on the stability of Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart being at Georgia than Clark Lee staying at Vandy. And that's not to say that he doesn't love Vandy, Mike and Kirby love Georgia. It's just his services are going to be very, very sought after.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason Kirby Smart doesn't get a lot of job offers from other schools. He's not coming out of there. And clear up a little something else. Mike Bobo gets job offers. They don't get out. not a lot of people talk about him. So people say, no, nobody's offering Mike Bobo a job. Well, y'all are wrong about that. So just because it doesn't hit coach, was it football coach search or whatever? I'm trying to think of that. That doesn't mean that there aren't inquiries into whether or not he'd be willing to go somewhere else. But he's very happy here. He's been around. He likes it at Georgia. He likes being with Kirby. And he is the one recruiting Jared Curtis. And if I'm Jared Curtis, I'm like, you take a guy like Gunnar Stockton. And I think Gunnar right now has the highest completion percentage of all FBS quarterbacks. It's pretty good. Jared Curtis knows he's got a better arm than Gunnar Stockton, but you see Gunnar Stockton winning games. He's like, that's with that quarterback coach and the quarterback staff. Don't forget Streeter too. The guy that was so good at Clemson. There are some very good. The development that Georgia's selling Jared Curtis. Look what I can do. And here's who you're throwing to. Here's the offensive line that's going to keep you upright. Yeah, I'm with you. It's a good sales technique. And again, he has committed Georgia twice, but hey, anything can happen. Last question for Michael Quick 33. Who's coming next year that can rush the passer in the future?
Yeah, I think it's Kamari Brooks. I think every time I've seen him, he's very athletic. Like when I saw him in North Dakota earlier this year, they had him playing almost like a star kind of thing. Like they had him dropping in coverage and then like rushing, but almost in like a blitzing linebacker sense on third down. So he's very athletic. He's very, like I said earlier, disciplined. And what I mean by disciplined is he dominated a state championship game against a Marist team that runs the triple option, which is so hard to do.
It is
at that
nightmare to face.
Defensive end, outside linebacker. And he took over a game, which it's hard for anybody to do that against that offense, let alone at that position. So, and he comes from a program in North Oconee that is run well, has obviously sent guys to the next level, starting with Landon Roldan. They've got Dallas Dickerson committed to, I think he's committed to Kentucky. So they've sent guys to the next level. And yeah, I think that's a guy who he is out for a good chunk of his senior year because he dislocated his hip or something. But I believe he's supposed to be ready for spring. And assuming he is, that could be a guy that you see on the field next fall, just because he's everything he's a complete package, and it's at a position where Georgia needs some help for sure.
And I think next year, I mentioned him before, but don't forget Isaiah Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he a 5-star?
I think so. I think he ended up a 5-star.
Yes.
It was all said and done. Yeah.
Then Chase Linton. Cool. But honestly, I think with those guys, you got to look at the transfer portal.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like you don't know.
You can't wait. You don't know. You have 8 sacks. That is dead last. Now, granted, most of the teams in the SEC have played 8 games. There's only 3 that have played 7 games. Georgia's one of those teams that's only played 7 games, but you were the only team in the SEC without double-digit sacks. For comparison, Texas A&M has 32 sacks. Now, I'm no math genius. To get a journalism degree at the University of Georgia, it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to take a lot of math. You do have to take a class on statistics. But 8 versus 32, even with 1 extra game, that's not great, And a lot of secondary issues. When I say the secondary is really bad, comes from lack of pressure on the QB. So if those guys were coming in and were going to actually be game changers, they'd be playing now. So I think you got to go to the portal.
Yeah, and you don't know who.
There may not be anybody there
going in the portal until they go in the portal. But yeah, I think you'll see. But the thing about it is, it depends on how much room you have, because Gabe Harris can be back. Chris Jones will be back. Chris Cole will be back. Again, assuming none of them transfer. What's the other one? Oh, Quintavious Johnson should be back. So yeah, you need some help there, but it's also like you can't bring in like 20 edge guys and eventually figure it out. There's only so many spots. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And that puts all the more pressure on. That puts all the more pressure on the on the evaluations, like, yeah, you can't afford to bring in a guy and then miss on him and have him be, a bump on a log for the entire season because you just don't have that many spots at edge. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And I think something else too is Anthony Crua, who's a freshman linebacker this year. I think he's a guy who could be a little bit of a hybrid type guy. And I think Elijah Littlejohn, who's a guy they're working to flip from Penn State, he's another guy who is being pitched on the hybrid inside outside linebacker role. And somebody on the board was like, yeah, I wish Georgia would recruit just the pure outside linebacker guys instead of the hybrids. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But also you can make the case that your best pass rusher each of the past 2 years has been one of those hybrid guys. Jalen Walker last year, and you can easily make that argument for Chris Cole this year. So it's working out. It obviously gives you a lot of positional creativity, flexibility, whatever. But one way or another, we can talk in circles around it all. They got to get after the quarterback better. Got to affect them. Got to get him to the ground, do all that stuff because it just has not been up to par, I would say.
All right. Question from I'm gonna get this wrong. Alvaro Penarosas. That's a good guess. Says, do you see the Bulldogs in the final game at the end of the season? If no, what do we need to get there?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing is that, and this isn't answering the question at all. This is a great cop out, but like,
Coward.
Who out there do you think Georgia can't beat right now? I mean, I don't know if there's anybody. Maybe Ohio State, but I mean,
I'm kind of scared crapless about Texas A&M right now.
Yeah, but still, I think you could talk yourself into Georgia being able to beat anybody. So it depends on the draw in the playoff. If you get, I don't even know if you host a home game and then like Ohio State last year, Ohio State on paper, you're like, oh man, okay, yeah, we beat Tennessee, but oh man, we got to match up with the 1 seed. Ohio State blows Oregon to smithereens, and they beat Texas and they beat Notre Dame. So I think the next 5 games are going to tell us what. And yeah, obviously. That's obvious. But if you see a team that is getting better in these next 5 games and the defense figures it out and the offense keeps ascending, then I think you get to December and you're like, yeah, this team can beat anybody. And I think if you see these next 5 games where the offense maybe takes a tiny step back or stagnates and the defense continues being up and down, even if Georgia makes the playoff at 11-1 and 10-2, you kind of go into December thinking, okay, well, whoopee, we've made the playoff, but Georgia's not going to do anything once they get there. So it's going to be these next 5 games, I think, will tell you. And I could have a different answer by December 1st, but I think right now I would lean no, just because they've flirted with disaster so often. And you're obviously playing really good teams in the playoff, but if they keep getting better and improve and start putting closer to full games together over this last month, and that answer could absolutely change by the beginning of December.
That was a long-winded cop-out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what they paid me for.
Just equivocate and give yourself backdoors and covers.
Yeah,
the answer to the question right now.
I press in school, so they might not have offered it when you were there, but it was great. Shout out to the sports media program. But yeah, it's. I mean, again, I think the answer is no right now. But
it is no.
But that could change.
And the reason it's no right now is because your defense isn't going to give you a chance to. Defense wins championships. We've seen these high-powered offenses go into a game, and they run into a defense that shuts them down, and the other defense can't do anything. Right now, when you played Ole Miss, your offense scored on every touch. They had to be perfect, because the defense was letting the other team score a touchdown 5 straight times. You can't count on your offense being perfect. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it feels like the fire that you're playing with right now. To your point, though, if the defense gets better, if all of a sudden DeMello Jones comes on and makes some noise, and Corey Thomas picks it up at safety, KJ Bolden makes some plays, you start to get some edge pressure. Chris Cole actually drops the quarterback. He's gotten to the quarterback multiple times. He just missed a couple tackles. all of a sudden you start getting pressure. Once you have a defense to go with this offense and great kicking game, oh yeah, you can be in that final game. You can win it. It'd be crazy. We were talking about how bad the defense is, and then at the end of the year, we're picking up confetti off the ground to send to our readers. That definitely can happen. But right now, I'm worried about what Lagway is going to do to Georgia, just because I'm not convinced this defense is prepared to stop anybody or is ready to. I'm thinking the SEC championship. If you're looking at Texas A&M, you saw what they did to Ole Miss. I mean, at LSU, that's a dangerous defense. I mean, dangerous offense right now. So I'm a little worried about them. So I'm not trying to be a downer. It's just realistically, this defense has to get better before Georgia is finals worthy, and it's very possible.
It is, again, absolutely. Like if they come
The
out,
question was, if no, what do we need to get there? You need your defense to get better. That's it.
yeah, if they hold Florida to 6 points and get a few sacks and play good coverage, then that starts.
Yes, we have a completely different conversation next Monday at 7:00. We have a completely different conversation. From Brian Young, 3592, with Colby out, does CJ Wiley see more action in the second half? How effective can he be in the screen game? I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's Noah Thomas.
Yeah, I think Noah Thomas will get a lot more, and I think CJ Wiley, I'm sure, was given every opportunity to earn that playing time over the bye week, and maybe he did. Maybe we'll see him a little bit on Saturday, but I think it's Noah Thomas's time to shine. He's the closest thing physically wise that you've got compared or in comparison to Colby Young. So I think you'll see him. I think you'll see maybe you'll see Wiley. I'm curious, like, does Georgia start because Colby Young got a lot more involved in the question said in the screen game this year. Like, does that mean more? Does Dylan Bell try to get more? Like, obviously the Zach Branch screens are the best play the offense has, but does anybody else step up as one of those guys? Because Dylan Bell, if you throw it to him, he can't block for himself. So do you try to throw? Does Sakobi White get some of those screens? Can Noah Thomas be effective in the screen game? We'll see, but we'll see if CJ Wiley, like I think Herbie said last week, we're going to see what he can do in practice these next couple of weeks, but we'll see. But Noah Thomas, it's his time. It's now or never, I think, for Noah Thomas.
And you have to have a lot of want to, and that's what Colby Young had. And that is, I'm not saying that's a rare thing, but it is not as prevalent in Georgia's other wideouts besides Dylan Bell and Zach. So those guys have that want to. Some of the other guys it's something you learn over time. I don't know that the true freshman has it yet. Henry Dion. Also, what's the deal with all these reactionary Fairweather Georgia fans crapping on Glenn Schumann? And a lot of that has to do, with the fact that he's gotten ripped on a few of the broadcasts. People talking about predictable defense and teams just gouging Georgia on defense, like guys being wide open. And this is a what have you done for me lately sport. That's not Glenn Schumann will forget more about football than you or I will ever know. But when the defense is struggling, you toss him. When Georgia's offense was struggling, everybody wanted Mike Bobo's head on a platter. And when the line was bad, everybody wanted Stacy Searles fired. If the tight ends were dropping balls, the shine would be off Todd Hartley in a second. I'm the one saying that maybe Dante Williams has a new job next year, because Georgia's cornerbacks have not exactly torn it up. It's easy to blame the coaches, whether they deserve it or not. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And it doesn't – they fired Mark Richt after a 10-win season. That's it. LSU fired Ed Orgeron. He's 51-20.
Yep.
I mean, it's
and not all of this is like you mentioned Chris Cole. If Chris Cole comes flying off the edge at first drive against Ole Miss, and if he brings Trinidad Chambliss down, they move the ball on the opening drive, but Georgia's defense stands up in the red zone, holds them to a field goal. And maybe that field goal gets blocked. Georgia's good at blocking field goals, who knows? But he missed the tackle, and Chambliss outruns Raylan Wilson to the edge, and he scores. Like some of that is it's like basketball. You can draw up plays to get your guys open shots, but the coach can't shoot them for you. So, but and that's not to say Schumann is there's plenty of blame to go around. We'll put it that way. It's execution. It's I think some schematic stuff that I'm not smart enough to understand. It's not all clicking. Hasn't all clicked so far, but maybe it all clicks down the stretch starting on Saturday.
Well, it's the same thing. Some of these announcers, and I don't hear them very much when they're doing the play-by-play or the analysis stuff, because we're doing the watch along with Coach Donnan, and we have it just loud enough so that you can almost hear it. And there have been a few times where when they're doing the little telestrator thing, they're like, has so-and-so, did Buster Faulkner figure out the Glenn Schumann defense? Is the, basically not have they stolen his signals, but have they figured out how to defeat the Glenn Schumann defense? And my whole take has been, it was the same when everybody was crapping on Mike Bobo. I'm like, well, yeah, Mike Bobo doesn't look as good when doesn't have Marius Mims, Broderick Jones, Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey. When he had those guys, he went undefeated in the regular season, lost one game. Without them, the next year, guess what? They struggled. They lost 2 games. This defense lost 3 first-round NFL guys. Some guys on the defensive front, some guys in the secondary. So with that loss of talent, Glenn Schumann doesn't look like the defensive savant that a lot of people think he is. Let him reload. We said early on when we did the show, I said this year was going to be a rebuilding year, not a reloading year, and that's kind of what we're seeing. But when the defense isn't, the minute there's a step backwards, they come for the coaches. That's always the way it's going to be, and it'll be that way. It was that way for Mike Bobo until all of a sudden his guys started getting better and they started scoring, and now the heat's off him. But again, if he only scored 17 points against Florida and they lose, Mike Bobo's right back under the bus. Hell, all of them will be. So, and that's eventually what gets all the great coaches. Doesn't matter what you've done in the past. If going off the past was, indicative of what should be in the future, Mark Richt still be here. They're winning 9, 10, 11 games a year and not winning a title. So, I'm going to do it. Oh, here's one. Would Dan Mullen do better now that he could lean on the portal, not just recruiting? He didn't like recruiting. That's a great question.
Yeah, and I think that's like I heard people talk about Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher hadn't been out of it that long, but it's a entirely new ball game from when Jimbo Fisher was when they ran him out of A&M. So yeah, and Mullen's obviously in and now at UNLV. UNLV's 6-1, maybe, or 7-1, 6-2. But yeah, maybe it's a lot easier to recruit guys when you can recruit guys in the portal over a span of a few weeks versus recruiting a class for 7, 8, 9 months.
That's something I wanted to mention about the question about how will NIL change with the coaching carousel. So the coaching moves around. How does that affect the recruits? And they tried to set it up this year so that you have early signing day, pretty early in December. And then you have like a whole month before the portal opens. Like, okay, so we can go ahead and sign all these kids and they don't have to worry about who's coming in the portal and stuff like that. We can lock them in. They won't know that so-and-so's leaving or so-and-so's coming in. That ain't going to happen, brother. Because everyone thinks that the kids who are going in the portal are going to wait till the first day of the portal to announce it. Bullshit. They are going to tell you on hell. There's probably kids at LSU announcing, "Hey, I'm going in the portal." Their kids wherever. Because here's the thing: they can't go into the portal, but they can tell you they intend.
They can say, and then that's when coaches start messaging friends of high school coaches who talk to uncles, and that's. Exactly. Yeah. That's how it's been. Every school does it. and that's that. It is the way it is. But yeah, like you said, that's just because you can't go into the portal until January 5th or whatever doesn't mean doesn't mean you can't let the whole world know that is what you're planning on.
And then all of a sudden, and especially when they put in like Carson Beck did with the do not contact tag.
Hmm.
Well, and then it leaks out. We all know that this 5-star, or this, it doesn't even have to be high star. This very talented defensive end is going to Georgia, and then the defensive end that you're trying to bring in the week before signing day, he's like, "Are y'all getting that kid? Well, do you lie to him?"
Hmm.
Well, all you can say is, "Well, the portal isn't open yet," but he's got to do not. He everybody knows where he's going, so the a lot of these kids, everyone thinks that they're going to wait until January. No, no, no. And a lot of them want to go ahead and move. It's like, let me go ahead and hell, if I can get in and get over there, then I'll get my class scheduled. I'll get my apartment set up. I'll be ready for the first day of classes. Schumann may end up at Penn State. Nope, nope, nope. Is Jared Curtis going to be ready sooner than Arch Manning was?
I mean, you look at they to a certain extent they have the same concern, right? Of their high school competition is not especially good, but then you watch the film of Curtis, and it's the arm talent, and he's running all over the place, and he's doing the most like single-handedly put the team on his back performance that you could think of. So I don't know. There's so much, like when you talk about quarterbacks being ready, so much of it is the mental stuff, and like Kirby Smart was saying today, Gunner puts Georgia in the right plays pre-snap, like all that kind of stuff is really is as much as anything. So it's hard to tell from looking at film, but he's certainly got all the talent in the world, and then that stuff shows up whether you're playing 7-year-old kids or future All-Americans. Some of that stuff is very, very impressive to watch when it comes to Curtis. So I don't know. We'll see. But some would argue Arch Manning still isn't ready. So whenever he's ready, we can.
He's in concussion protocol, isn't he?
We can start that conversation. Yeah, he is. I saw today. Yeah. So they got Vanderbilt coming to town. So that's no, and it's Vanderbilt, and I want to say that's a noon kick, which would be an 11 a.m. kick in Texas. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch Saturday morning.
Well, Scott Anderson thinks they're right ends this week. So
I don't know what the rest of Vanderbilt's
he might be right.
schedule looks like, but I mean, if you win that one, you're looking. That's a big step towards a potential playoff berth. I think if you can somehow steal one, even if Arch doesn't play, like that's still a big one to steal.
Football Scoop was the thing I was trying to remember. And they're actually legit now. I remember when Football Scoop first started, I was very I questioned some of their stuff, but they are a very good, very legitimate news agency now. And they break a lot of news. Here's another thing. Don't forget about Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's really come on.
Mm-hmm.
You told me he would. I was less than. I was really worried about the knee. But he had some hellacious days in scrimmage. There's a good question. Whatever happened to the Georgia defense this year? HB 1201. I don't know that we have that much time left in the show. But,
that's the show. That's why you tune into the show with Coach Don tomorrow.
Yeah. Multiple things. They lost a lot of talent to the NFL. They lost a lot of talent to the portal. They have a lot of young guys who are just learning how to play their roles. And they faced a pretty rough schedule. I mean, when you look at Ole Miss, very good offense. That Tennessee offense lights out. I mean, those are some really good ones. Auburn's pretty good. It's been a tough schedule. So it's not like that had a lot to do with it. Let's see. The last question. I'll let you go here. Just checking. See, a lot of the comment section is a lot of questions, people arguing with each other. Love it. Folks, I do read most of the comments. I try to read all of them, and there's some real good ones there. We'll end with this one from Chris Garcia, who's been who's watched the show a long time. If Stark leaves Texas, will Justice Terry come to Georgia?
It's possible. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, even if Sark doesn't leave, because I think that's a guy who, even during his recruitment, like, it was a battle of, like, Roddy, you interviewed him, and he's like, yeah, his town means so much to him. He wants to start a trucking business, I think, right? Isn't that what he said? Based out of
Barbershop.
Yeah, in a barbershop. So it's like a constant. It's two sides waging war of wanting to get out and see the world. I mean, and that's kind of what we thought when he committed to USC the first time, versus the roots of being in Georgia. And I think if you're Georgia, yeah, that's the guy. If you go in the portal, you kind of try to figure out whatever it takes to get him there. Him and Elijah Griffin are buddies going back to their recruitment, so that wouldn't hurt Georgia's case either. But he's obviously got to go in the portal like everybody else. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see if he gets the if he gets the homesick bug, or and I don't know. I have no idea what Texas's defensive line depth chart looks like. He could be in line to be a guy that plays 95% of their snaps next year, for all I know. So, but yeah, those are the ones, like those ones that go right down to the end, and it's ones that surprise you, and it gets around to this time a year later, and you're like, I wonder how things are going over there. Like this time next year, we could be wondering the same thing about Tyler Atkinson when he signs with Texas. So I don't know. Maybe, I don't know that. I mean, obviously Sarkisian leaving would put a wrinkle into things, but
what do you think about that report that came out?
I think it's an agent trying to get, like, I know they came out and denied it, but that just, I don't know, man. It's maybe it's just me being cynical, but like you see those things and you're like, all right, like, come on. So I don't know. Maybe it's true, but I don't see, like, I don't see Sark as a guy who is dying to prove himself going to the NFL, like a Jim Harbaugh. Like, I think most of his success has been in college, and he's at one of these programs at Texas where you got everything you could want. You can obviously win there. You were a goal line or a red zone touchdown from playing for a national championship last year. So I don't know. I think it's just it's agent silly season at work. But for all I know, he could be the next head coach of the Titans tomorrow, for all I know. But
here's the line on
time to me.
Here's the line on Justice Terry. He's played in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, so no redshirt there. He has 2 tackles.
So, yeah, maybe
he's one of the best players I've ever seen in real life. I mean, he's a badass. He's just not being used. And Elijah Griffin. Here's the crazy thing: it feels like I don't see Elijah Griffin get into games and enough. I just don't see him in there a whole lot. He actually has the second highest number of defensive line snaps for Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't believe
he's got more than Jordan Hall and
Brent or Trent or whoever said that the other day. Like, yeah, I couldn't believe that when I saw that.
But that's crazy. So, don't think that just because he only has 2 tackles that he's a bust. Justice Terry he is just tough to move. He's got that kind of natural strength, and when he comes through and you lock up with him, he feels like he's made out of cordwood, old oak, and he's just going to blow right past you. But having Elijah Griffin and maybe get him back. But that whole thing with the report on Sarkisian, I don't know. I don't know why anybody would report that it was, it's true when it's not, but very seldom see an agent come out and try to shoot it down.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I think it might have been spiraling a little out of control. They feel like, whoops. Sometimes when you and we've had this happen to us. We've had, agents feed us stuff. And it is tough because it comes from an agent. You're like, okay. But you also, I mean, you have to feel like, is it legit? I remember when uh, some of the guys that were interviewing at Georgia came through, one from LSU, one from Kentucky, and their agents were basically telling us how much Kirby loved them and how much they're going to be the next guy, and basically just trying to get the LSU and Kentucky to give their guys more money. And we're like, so you got to ask within the program, did it really go off that well? And they don't want to tell you, but so you're only left with one side. You're left with the agent side. So you really have to dig and find out, no, it did not go that well. So, and then of course you put that out there and now the agent's pissed at you, and like, I'm never going to tell you anything else again. I'm like, that's fine. You're using me to begin with, but he also represents like 3 other coaches that you need to talk to. So it's, it can be a real pain in the ass. So I'm with you there. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. Appreciate everybody tuning in on a Monday night. It means a lot to us. Tomorrow, noon, we'll have Coach Donnan on, talk about this Georgia-Florida game. And we have a lot of questions for him, especially from the man that's actually coached in that stadium multiple times. So I love having Jed on. We talk recruiting. We talk this, look back at the Georgia stuff. It's always fun to have Coach Donnan on and get his takes from the recruiting and scheme. Like Jed said, if we want to talk schematics, we'll ask Coach tomorrow. So be sure to tune in then. We will see you all later. Take care.